everybody's story is interesting. Every story is something that we can learn from and share, and it's really remarkable. I admire, my family has been here for many, many generations, and to think of what people go through to uproot and come to this different place that's so vast and cold. The themes are the same, it's amazing to me. So to share that is a gift.
What are your origins? Where are your origins? From your mom and dad's side?
Well, it's very interesting. My mom's family on her father's side, my granddad's family, are descendants of the ship Hector, so the first Scottish folks to arrive here in Nova Scotia. And my family's still involved in the preservation of a replica of the Hector in Pictou. I have English roots. I also have French and Irish roots. And in fact, my father's mother, who's still alive, Nana Macbeth, she's 99 and she's Acadian.
Wow.
She's from northern New Brunswick, and so part of her family was part of the Grand Dérangement, who were sent down to Louisiana, and then some of them made their way back, and their maiden name is Douaron, or Doiron when you're in New Orleans, but Douaron. Wow. So sort of old roots. But you can't help when you work here to have such an admiration for what people went through, and it wasn't all good stories. It was really hard, and that's an important part of it too. And it is. I said it before, but it's a real privilege to welcome people back and to have people like you come too.
Well, thank you for giving us this opportunity to come and speak with you today. We talked about Lou Sekulovski. Now, his father, Risto Sekulovski, came to Canada through the Halifax Pier. We're now going to be looking at a plaque in his honor, and his arrival there was on November 13th, 1961. He was given $20 by the welcoming organizers for his personal use or care, and the rest is history, as the saying goes. In brief, his travels commenced on June 14th, 1959. He embarked upon the voyage across the Atlantic on November 4th, 1961, and arrived in Halifax on November 13th, 1961. Then from Halifax, he traveled by train to London, Ontario, where he resided for 12 years. He has sadly passed away, but really it's a great story. Well,
and it is a great story, and I always think of those passages from about the end of October on through the winter as being very rough. The North Atlantic is not kind to ships or to people, and I can well imagine that those 7 or 8 days were probably not necessarily pleasant ones. And then to get on a train, a lot of people who arrived were helped by organizations and given a bit of money, which was wonderful, because the train ride was often longer than people expected, because they didn't realize that Canada was so vast. In Europe, a long train ride would have been an overnight, not 6 overnights, or even 2 overnights in the case of getting to London, Ontario, probably. So it was a theme. His story is important, and part of that is the theme of being helped by volunteers here too. We still have volunteers who give tours and help in other ways, and that's a tradition that started in 1928 when Pier 21 opened.
Tell us about some of the stories you've heard about that experience from others.
Well, I can tell you about some of the things we've heard many times. I think we all owe a debt of gratitude to those who arrived to have improved our food. To be honest, to put it on the light side, many, many people have told us that their sausages or their other cured meats and cheese were confiscated when they arrived here, and they experienced Spam or cornflakes or white squishy bread for the first time. So I'd like to think that we've improved since then and learned from these wonderful people who've come and told us how to bake proper things. But that was one of the themes, is the shock of the new. And the other thing that we hear an awful lot is that first snowfall, real snowfall, and that deep, deep snow, or trying to learn how to skate. Those are sort of things that transcend time and space, because whether you're coming now or you're coming 100 years ago, those were still the case here. And I think we had people who lived here at the pier for up to 6 and 7 months because their arrangements for work fell through. And the immigration folks here would try to help them find work instead of sending them back in some instances. So this was a place that became a bit of a home for some people. And we do have those stories here too. And then the other thing I would say is that journey on the ship, if you were young, and when I say young, teenaged, most, not all, and I'm not the expert on this, but from the stories I've heard, most, not all, weren't sick. So it was a time of great adventure. But for an awful lot of the parents, the adults with their wee ones, they were terribly seasick and in fact could barely eat, and were so grateful not just to arrive in Canada, but just to arrive back on land. Land was, they could finally feel a bit better. It was rough.
Two Macedonian Canadian associations are represented here, one the Lerin Region Macedonian Cultural Association of Ontario, the other being the United Macedonians, whose bench you're sitting on right now. How can other Macedonian associations, which we have many in Ontario, for example, and individuals of Macedonian descent and other ethnic origin that are watching our show today, how can they get in touch with Pier 21, first of all, and what type of donations are you looking for? How can they sponsor perhaps a plaque or a bench or anything else? How does that work?
We try to make it as simple as possible. If you go to our website, which is www.pier21.ca, you'll see right on our main page how to contribute stories, donations, other types of things. And if you just click on the different places where to contribute or to share a story, it'll take you right into what we think are very easy ways to go through the process of donating a story or wishing to donate if you have, you're willing to even share copies of your boarding passes or the food menus from ships or anything to help enrich our collection. And then of course from a donations perspective, because with any cultural institution across the country, that's always an important element. There's a place that says to donate. And whether it's a brick on the wall like we've shown, or other ways to donate, whether it's a plaque on the Wadia M. Ferris Wall of Tribute, there's different ways you can participate. And they also then, you'll see them on the website. You can go on the website and you'll see the plaques and you'll see that. So that even if you can't physically make it to Halifax, you'll be able to share with friends or groups online, because it is a national treasure and we're trying our best to make it as accessible to people as possible.
That's great. Now, last year, the Canadian Ethnic Media Association held their season's dinner at our Macedonian Community Center and Church, St. Clement of Oakleigh, Macedonian Orthodox Church and Community Center, and you were there. Tell us about your impressions, first of all, about the Macedonian Church, St. Clement of Oakleigh, and our Community Center.
I was amazed at its beauty, both inside and out. And I'm always amazed because I was looking and I thought, this is a community who's so organized, and so the volunteers who were, everything about it was like a well-run machine. Clearly you're used to welcoming people there, and it was a beautiful, beautiful church, but it was also the people. Everybody was so welcoming and helpful, and I get very confused when I'm in places and trying to find washrooms and all sorts of things like that, and everybody to a T was just so lovely. But you could tell there's a sense of community. When you go into a building, you can feel that warmth or welcome, and so it feels comfortable right away.
Well,
and
that's we felt amazing. That warmth with you when we came into your building.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that, because
absolutely,
our building is not beautiful like yours in the traditional sense, as you know, because we're on the ocean. It's built for hurricanes. Well. It's low and it's very solid, but it's got a different type of beauty because of where we are too. But so we try to help with friendly faces and welcoming. So thank you, because that's fantastic. Important.
You're absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. Just before we end today's talk, Halifax is a great city in its own, and it's just an amazing city. Tell us a little bit about Halifax and why it would be interesting, not only for Canadian Macedonians and others watching our show today, to visit Pier 21, but also to see Halifax.
Halifax is a wonderful city to live, work, eat, and play. As you know, we shared about you eating here last night. Halifax is incredibly accessible. When you come to Pier 21, you can walk the waterfront. You can see, we have an incredibly busy harbor and the second largest natural harbor in the world. So our naval fleet, we just had a frigate just go by not long ago. Our pleasure boats, plus it's a very, very busy port for commercial travel as well. So the city itself has a great history, of course, dating back, hundreds and hundreds of years. We've got beautiful Citadel Hill. It's a very easy city to walk. Personally, I feel it has fantastic restaurants. It's also really family-friendly city to walk about because it's not that big. So you can come, and in 2 days, you can genuinely get a sense of the city. You can come to Pier 21 for a morning or an afternoon or a whole day. You can have a couple of fantastic meals, and of course, our famous seafood, which, if you can, it's always a treat. But then you can walk about and really mix with the people of Halifax and the locals and get a sense of the history. It's a wonderful place to live and play, but it's a really fun place to visit. And it's like I said, in a long weekend, you can really get a good sense of this city and its history.
And where the first immigrants, including Macedonian immigrants, landed here in Canada for the first time.
Absolutely. And we feel like we're one of the jewels on the waterfront. And so
the jewels of Canada, I would say.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
At the end of today's talk, do you have a message for the Macedonian community and the viewers of the Macedonian Heritage Hour on Omni Television?
Well, first of all, I want to say thanks to you for making this trip and to come and to be so kind with your words. But what I would say most is, if you have a chance to share your story, first with your family if you haven't, but we would love to have it shared with us as well for all Canadians to appreciate. Because for so many people, as I said, they haven't shared, and that's a really important thing for a family to know. And sometimes it isn't easy, but it's important, and that would be the first thing. And the other thing I would say is, if you have a chance to come to Halifax and to visit Pier 21, we're open all year round. We would welcome everybody to come, and I think that to have the Macedonian community continue this long marriage that we have has been a real gift. And right up until, just a month ago on that beautiful Sunday here with the Lerin community, it has been wonderful, and we want to continue it for long thereafter. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Počituvani gledači, to беше разговорот со председателот на Pier 21, Pier 21, Marie Chapman. И one more time, we'd like to thank you. That was a great talk with Marie Chapman, the Chief Executive Officer of Pier 21. I'm Bill Yancoff for the Macedonian Heritage Hour. It's also an honor to speak with Jeanette Van Houten, who traveled all the way from New Jersey to Pier 21 here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Tell us why you came to Pier 21, Jeanette.
I came to Pier 21 because my mother's family immigrated from England and France, and we wanted to see if we could find some records to put her family history together.
That is great. Now, tell us what you think of Pier 21.
It's lovely. It's not overwhelming with all the information. It gives you a ton of information and a ton of displays, and it's exciting to hear like the stories of the children that came over from Europe during the war, and hearing about their experiences, hearing about the war brides' experiences, and just seeing like the beautiful luggage that they had and the different ways that they traveled.
Did you hear anything about those experiences when you were growing up? Did you hear any of those stories?
From my grandmother, I would hear some stories about her mother, but not a whole lot. I think back when I was a child, those experiences weren't really talked about. So we're trying to unravel some of the history now.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. And do you have any last thoughts about visiting Pier 21?
Everybody should come to Pier 21. It's a wonderful experience to see how immigration affected Canada, and just to see the lovely displays that they have.
Dragi makedonci i naši prijatelji, во нашето студио се наоѓаат Лу Sekulovski, кој е сегашен председател на Канадско етнокултурниот совет, и Annie Wood, кој е секретар на Леринското македонско културно друштво на Канада. Welcome to our studio.
Сполати многу бил на ова покана. Многу ме мило да се видиме пак. And on behalf of the Canadian Ethnocultural Council, we extend our greetings to all our friends and members throughout the country.
Well, thank you, Lou and Angela, for coming to our studio. We just finished the second part of our report, which was based on my trip to Halifax, Nova Scotia, and Pier 21. We'll start off with Lou because you were one of the people instrumental at the very beginning, getting the various ethnocultural communities involved, including the Macedonian community. Tell us about your involvement in Pier 21.
Correct, Bill. I was fortunate back in 1997, 1998 to meet the fundraiser and executive director at Pier 21, Ruth Goldblum, a fantastic, dynamic lady. And the opportunity arose for communities throughout the country to introduce people who have come through Pier 21. As some people do know or not know, Pier 21 was the place of all port landings from Europe, from the years early 1900s to up to 1970. And I discovered that my father had arrived through Halifax and onward into London, Ontario. So opportunity arose for us to depict a name plaque on his behalf, and also I was fortunate in us having a bench designated on behalf of the Macedonian communities of Canada, which is exhibited at Pier 21 at a very prominent location. And that truly was an accomplishment and a privilege to be associated.
Well, we're very thankful that you did that, and our viewers have seen that in the report, and thank you so much for making the extra effort to get our Macedonian community name out there at Pier 21. Angela, you are the secretary of the Lerin Region Macedonian Cultural Society of Canada, and tell us about your involvement in Pier 21. From what we've seen, you were instrumental in the whole effort of the Lerin Region Association having a plaque, being in a prominent place again on behalf again of our Macedonian community.
Bill, thank you very much for having me today. I'm pleased to represent the Lerin Region Macedonian Cultural Association of Canada. As you know, our organization has been in existence for 19 years, and we're going to be celebrating our 20th anniversary next year. And we are so deeply committed to the people of Macedonia who came through Pier 21 from the Lerin region. And it happened that a year ago I had the occasion to meet with the folks at Pier 21 for another project that I was working on. And when I was there, I saw the wall of honor, and there was space on the wall of honor, and I thought that perhaps it would be a good idea for our organization to show its commitment to its people by placing a plaque honoring their coming to Canada.
Well, that was fantastic, and tell us about the time that you were there with other representatives of the Lerin Association in Halifax. It must have been great for everyone, the delegation that went there. Tell us about that delegation. They were young and old mixed together, as Marie Chapman told us as well.
Our organization was very pleased to have 3 members of our group go with their families. My son accompanied me. Peter Madichkov, his wife and children, attended. Traian Dimitriou and his wife attended. So we had both young and old, male and female, and we all had a connection to the immigrant experience of Macedonians coming through Pier 21. We were greeted so warmly. Marie Chapman, the others at the museum opened up their hearts. They opened up the museum to us, and they were deeply honored to have Macedonians present. For them, it was a very, very big event, and I think that the plaque will remind them from this point into the present about what we as Macedonians contributed to this country.
Well, we have many other Macedonian associations from all parts of Macedonia, and hopefully they'll follow the lead and continue with this, the effort to have our Macedonian community recognized at Pier 21.
It's very important for us to be counted, and unless we put plaques and benches in prominent places, then we disappear. And so any effort by any Macedonian organization, any Macedonian individual to put a name plaque, for example, on a wall such as the Walls of Honor at Pier 21, all of that helps to remind everyone, including our own children, our grandchildren, that we exist as a people, that we made the journey here. And, you know, the plaques will stand the test of time. The bench will withstand the test of time.
Lou, tell us about the experience of your parents. Your parents came via Macedonia to Halifax, and tell us about your recollections of that event as told by your family, as your parents.
Well, briefly, it was my father who came through Halifax. My mother, sister, and I followed afterwards. He left the region, and we're from Lake Prespa region, specifically from the village Krani, and my mother from Dolno Dupini.
And what year did they come to Canada? Let's talk about that.
Well, my father left 1959, went to Greece into a refugee camp, and 1961 is when he boarded the Olympia cruise ship. It was the one and only Greek liner at that time, and from Greece sailed into Pier 21. Upon arrival, as most immigrants came here in Canada, they were given a train ticket from Halifax to...
We're taking, by the way, sorry to interrupt, we're taking a look at that boat right now. It's a postcard that you gave us of that ship.
Correct. That's the original postcard my father kept with him, and upon arrival in Halifax, he was given $20 and a train ticket to London, Ontario. And a few years afterwards, my sister and I followed and lived in London initially for a number of years.
So now again, your origins are from the village of?
Krani is the village and Lake
in the
Prespa,
Reston region of Macedonia?
on Lake Prespa, correct.
And Angela?
Oh, I'm from Ovčarani.
Which is the Lerin region, of course.
The Lerin region, yes.
And are both of your parents from Ovčarani?
Yes, both are from Ovčarani, and my grandmother is from Živojno.
From Živojno?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. So from all parts of Macedonia, we're all come together here today, which I think is very important for our Macedonian community, to realize that we're from all different regions of Macedonia, but what unites us is that we're Macedonian. Would you both agree?
Absolutely.
Now, Lou, continue. I'm sorry I interrupted your story.
I truly want to encourage, there's a lot of people whom I'm familiar with who have come through Halifax and Pier 21 specifically. And I truly encourage, as Annie has mentioned, to make contact with Pier 21 or yourselves here and give a little donation and have your name on the wall of fame, or even a bench. A bench to me is really symbolic and very important. It's amazing, all immigrants who arrive anywhere, doesn't matter if you're in an airport or a port, having a bench to sit down, relax, catch your breath. It's a way of welcoming, and it's a symbol of a very hospitable society, which Canada is and has been.
Now, Lou, you're the current president, a second term in a row, of the Canadian Ethnocultural Council. I'd like to congratulate you on that for representing our Macedonian community at the Canadian Ethnocultural Council. What is new with the Canadian Ethnocultural Council?
What is new? It's always a challenge with us, and the way I describe our council, it's an umbrella organization, and simply put, we are the United Nations of Canada within Canada. We work collectively with all the major national ethnocultural groups throughout Canada, whether it's small communities as Macedonia or Chinese or Ukrainian Congress, etc. We are as a team, and we deal with Canadian issues totally here. And we truly help each other and promote our cultures.
Angela, tell us a little about what you do outside of assisting in a great way the Lerin Region Association and the Macedonian community. What do you do?
Well, I work as a museum consultant, and I work on museum projects worldwide. I've worked on museums.
And we remember from Baba's Hope Chest,
yes.
which you were fantastic at, by the way.
Well, thank you very much. I currently work internationally. I was on a team that helped build the University of Hong Kong's a brand new museum just recently, and so for me, being at Pier 21 was very, it was just what I do. It's what I do for my living. And to be able to combine my work with my deep love for the Macedonian community and for our history was a real privilege, a real honor for me. And I was so pleased to represent the Lerin Region Macedonian Cultural Association of Canada, because there's one thing I'd like to say about the organization. and its commitment to the Macedonian people from that region. You know, it has worked tirelessly to promote Macedonian culture, but it couldn't have done so without the people that support it through its membership. So it's really a wonderful relationship. The community helps the organization then tries to help in as many ways as possible through donations to various churches, and especially through this plaque. So it's a wonderful organization to be associated with.
That is great. And I know you wanted to thank someone who was particularly helpful in Halifax to make it all possible.
Well, you know, Marie Chapman, of course, and Maria Almeida. I was working with her over the last year in terms of getting just the plaque organized. There was quite a bit involved in getting the right wording and getting the plaque actually up on the wall. And then I've been working with a young woman named Cassidy in terms of the oral histories that we've collected as well. And so I would like to thank Pier 21 for all the kindness that they showed our organization over the last year.
That is so great, and we thank you so much for coming to our studio today. Do you have a message for the members of the Macedonian community, both of you, at the end of today's interview? We'll start with Lou. For the Macedonian Canadians watching, but in addition, our friends, because we have a lot of people who are not of Macedonian descent who watch our show as well.
Message. First of all, I have to acknowledge and thank you and your program and producers involved to have a mode of distributing our information in our community. And I also want to encourage every individual to be proud of who they are, what they are, and to share their culture, and not to be totally enclosed within their own communities, but really to help other people, and by doing that, they in turn will help you and us.
Thank you so much, Lou. And Angela, do you have a message at the end of today's interview?
What I'd like to encourage our people to do is tell their stories to their children, their grandchildren. Work with organizations like our organization, the Macedonian Historical Society, to tell their stories. Because if our stories aren't told, they'll disappear. And then we as a people disappear. So keep telling how we came to Canada and what we went through. And Bill, one more thing. So
yes.
Like Lou, I would like to thank you very much for doing this show.
Well, thank you so much for participating. It's, I think it's enriched our show greatly. Počituvani gledači, to беше разговорот со Angela Wood и Lou Sekulovski.